Thank you very much, Balipara Foundation, for the 13th Eastern Himalayan Naturenomics Forum, being held simultaneously across 4 different campuses of the city, bringing together a very eclectic mix of people, scholars, lay and curious attendees, and of course the experts in the respective domains. I'm indeed very glad to be here amongst a star-studded panel here called, the session here is called Rooted in Culture, Community Ethos and Their Forest Connections. Since this is the pre-lunch session, I'm assuming that you have already been fed with a lot of intellectual energy, and we are slowly moving towards our more basic instincts. But at the same time, we have on this panel some very, very dynamic experts from this region, from the Eastern Himalayas, beginning with Anwaruddin Chaudhary, who needs actually no introduction to this panel because he's been a renowned naturalist who has actually been responsible for some of the very first information on birds and on our natural history, who's also the trustee of the Rhino Foundation in Assam. He's been recognized widely for his conservation work in the region, especially with respect to the rhinoceros and other wildlife. On a personal note, Mr. Anwaruddin Chaudhary, I remember from a very, very long time when I had a stint in the Sentinel in Guwahati as a cub reporter between my undergrad and my postgraduate years. I remember very curiously taking those pictures of the birds that Mr. Chaudhary would send every week, and every Sunday we would publish a column which was probably one of the first of these columns on knowing birds around the region. And he must have named all the birds, and it's probably one of the predecessors to the great cotton exercise that Narayan Sharma has led in this campus on naming of birds and counting of birds. I think you would find your original gangster here. So, Mr. Anwaruddin Chaudhary, my respects to you. It's a great honor to be here with you. I remember many, many years back, decades back, 4 decades. So we go back to 4 decades when I used to take down as a sub-editor the pictures that he sent us with a lovely description, ornithological description, and a scientific classification of the birds that he brought to our notice. So welcome to this panel. Mr. Bangwan Losu, who's from the renowned Wancho Literary Mission, Arunachal Pradesh, and is the executive director and founder of this absolutely marvelous foundation that I have been reading and learning a little about. He's also the originator and the original scripter of the Wancho script. Am I right? Yes, and he has helped develop a writing system to preserve the language and the culture of the community, of this community from Arunachal Pradesh, which has led to the publication of a lot of literary writings from the oral to print, and to textbooks being introduced in schools and teachers learning the script. So I think the connection in this particular session where we are talking about being rooted in culture is to not just learn from what our ancestors have brought to us, but also to learn from what the environment brings to us. And I think this should be an interesting session where we see the intersection of the environment around us, ecology, our own human literary cultures, our own ecological legacies, and of course what Mr. Losu has been doing, bringing about digital identity to the Wancho tribes. We have Mr. Xavier Topno, who is the head of Tribal Culture Tata Steel Foundation. So here, heritage meets corporate giants, where we have him spearheading the understanding of tribal heritage in an area where Tata Steel's head office and its primary establishments are located. We have him understanding Jharkhand and Odisha cultures. Being an XLRI alumnus, Mr. Topno leads the Tribal Language Preservation Project across almost 1,000 centers in 39 districts, in which he has been able to revive certain dying or declining languages such as Santhali, Munda and Ho. And also he's responsible for bringing in Rhythms of the Earth, a fantastic fusion, cultural fusion of traditional music in the region, and for documenting the tribal traditions of his space. Finally, we have Mr. Raj Kamal Goswami, the faculty from ATRI, the Ashoka Trust, who has been also a fellow in residence at ATRI, working on forests, governance and livelihoods. Mr. Raj Kamal Goswami is no stranger to the region. He has been working for a long time also around northeast of India, and also contributing to the academic and scholarly pursuits at Cotton University. So thank you, Mr. Raj Kamal Goswami, whose research now examines human-forest interfaces. So this is one of the important connections that we are hoping to make in this session, the human, non-human connection. He also works on conservation biology, landscape ecology, climate impacts, contributing to down-to-earth on wildlife narratives, and has been writing and publishing widely and cited equally so many times as he tries to bridge ecology, policy, community livelihoods for sustainable biodiversity and for livelihood management practices. So here we are with the panel which will speak on all of this. But I will just flag a few points before I bring on the speakers themselves. We are actually at a moment in the history of time and in the history of scholarly research and learning where we understand that we inhabit what has been also more popularly called the Anthropocene. Inhabiting a space and a time in the vast geological eras when we understand our planetarity and we understand our precariousness from various points of view, from how we live, to what we eat, to how our environment and our species may be shrinking, degrading or disappearing, and also the kind of cultural knowledge that we imbibe through our oral, traditional, indigenous histories, as many of us here are going to speak about. So one of the standpoints of this session is to understand forest, the community of the forest ethos, its communities, and the intrinsic connections that forests make with communities of humans and non-humans, and how this is actually enmeshed in very, very old cultural traditions. So sacred spaces, we will be talking about sacred spaces. The northeast of India has been actually cited as one of the regions in which nature and the community sometimes defy the kind of binaries and the conundrums in which we have been traditionally cast. So for example, we often talk about our anthropological conundrums of nature versus society, or the individual versus the collective, or even the body versus the mind. And here I think the conversation is likely to bring these together and to destabilize or to defamiliarize these binaries, these separations in which we live. So indigenous worldviews are important to us. Village councils and traditions, local governance and systems of customary law that shape and that give us our own directions in taking forward regional, local, and perhaps Eastern Himalayan life and culture. All of this will come up as I bring to you a couple of thoughts that I will direct to the individual panelists here. And I would like to begin with Mr. Anuraddin Chaudhary, please. How do you think, in this long pursuit that you've had with the protection of the environment, especially with regard to wildlife and the avian population, how do you think the communities that you have been around and that you have explored and drawn your knowledge from, how do you think they have either contributed or constrained this long exercise of protecting the environment? And how do you think we could learn from the community? Do we have lessons that we can draw from the community, especially in terms of the conservation frameworks that are now popularly available, but also some of the conservation frameworks that are not known and that may be borrowed from local knowledge? Would you... Yes, if you prefer the podium, that's better. Yes.
Good afternoon. It is a sheer coincidence that a couple of months back, the Rangers Association, who had their annual general conference, had requested me for an article to be written for their souvenir. And I wrote exactly an article on the topic that has been assigned to me for deliberation. I have brought a copy and I request the organizers to distribute it. And the topic is entitled Conservation through Community Participation, a few case studies from Northeast. So during my 4.5 decades of fieldwork, I had been to every nook and corner of the Northeast. And I found community conservation it was a growing phenomenon, and now it has reached a good level to be replicated elsewhere. First, I would like to mention is the conservation of black-tip cranes by the Monpa community. Because you see, the community conservation is actually site-specific. It is not everywhere that there is some cultural values and something like that. It is not like that. At places, hunters turned into conservationists. There is a place where some poachers have surrendered their arms and now helping in conservation. So it is variable. So coming back to the Monpas, it was long back. The black-necked crane is an endangered species. And it used to winter in a place called Zero Valley in Arunachal. In Zero, in the valley, they used to come for spending their winter months. But there is no community conservation or no community participation. So once they felt disturbed, the birds stopped coming. And one of my friends, late Prakash Gole, was very interested in the research on cranes. Then he made a frantic search in parts of western Arunachal and found that in Shanti Valley still some black-necked cranes visit. Black-necked crane is also known as Tibetan crane. When he visited, I also visited subsequently, but when he visited he found that the cranes visiting, because there is some cultural bondage between the Monpa community and the cranes. The Monpas, they don't molest the birds and they revere it, they respect it. And because of this, the birds still survive and they are still visiting. Subsequently, I visited another valley called Pangchen Valley or the Valley of Zamithan. There also the community is Monpa community, and as I anticipated, there were some cranes. So now these two are the only permanent wintering sites in the northeast. And it is because of the involvement of the Monpa community. But again, you see, sometimes community participation has also its limitations. Monpas protected the cranes, but they could not prevent its death. Because of subsequent developmental activities, the once peaceful and secluded village had to be connected with electricity as well as vehicular traffic. In the process, one bird got electrocuted. So then the question came up that how to save the birds. Then there are some other instances, I just named them, which didn't start with the cultural ethos or something like that, which started because of the interest shown by the people, subsequent interest, enhanced their knowledge has been enhanced because of visiting bird watchers and tourists. I also had the opportunity to visit those areas. Number one, I would like to highlight the Bugun Community Initiative. In 90s, I had visited Eagle Nest Wildlife Sanctuary in Western Arunachal and carried out a bird survey, as well as survey of other wildlife, particularly mammals. In the process, I met a particular person called Mr. Indy Glow. He was very keen, but I was not aware that he is very keenly interested in conservation also. I met him, we had good interaction and all. But after some time, I came to know that Indy Glow has converted his entire personal property into a community reserve. And in the process, he motivated the entire Bugun community to save their surrounding environment, including its birds and mammals. They have been given awards also across the country. Then one of my friends from Nagaland, in the previous session, he explained for conservation community initiatives by the Nagas. Nagaland had one advantage. You see the village headman, the structure of village headman. Village headman, we are also having village headman in Assam, locally called Gamburat. But the status and the respect the village headman in Nagaland attracts is something unbelievable. In fact, what he says is some sort of final say. So awareness and motivation coming from Gamburat, the institution has been so strong that it helped a lot in the future conservation. The example from Nagaland First example was Hoshu, a village near Junhakoto. I visited Hoshu in 1996, and I found that the village headman, that was most probably one of the pioneering efforts in Nagaland. He earmarked his entire village community forest into a bird sanctuary, named it as Hoshu Bird Sanctuary. Subsequently, came up the KNCTS, the Konoma Community Initiative. Konoma is not far from Kohima, and one of my friends was involved with the Chile Sakri. They were hunters. It is not that they were traditional conservationists. They were hunters, but they converted themselves into conservationists to protect the surrounding environment and all. In the process, they could also save the sources of vital water, the streams. On my part, I used to visit Sile Sakri from time to time and accompany them to Zuko Valley. Then once I organized a meeting between KNCTS and another good initiative in Manas called Manas Maujigendri Ecotourism Society. That was in 2006 or 7. I organized a visit by KNCTS team, including its leader Sile Sagri, to Manas, so that they can have their understanding, they can exchange their views, they can exchange their experience. Coming back to Manas, as I have already mentioned, Manas Maujigendri Ecotourism Society, many of them were ex-poachers. They surrendered their arms and started conservation activities. And they have even supplemented the forest department's effort in patrolling the national park. And now they are having very good ecotourism additional, to give some supplementing their income. Then in the eastern buffer of Manas, there is another initiative called Manas Sorchikungur Ecotourism Society. One Mr. Vijay Chaudhary, he has also been awarded by a number of organizations. Now he is also absorbed in the forest department. He was a local youth with good initiative and interest in nature conservation. I helped him because I was posted there in the district, or the district head. So I helped him a lot. And in the process, he founded the organization and ensured that no poaching takes place in the eastern buffer of Manas Tiger Reserve. He is also working with the people in human-elephant conflict to mitigate and to make an effort.
Mr. Chaudhary, we'll come back in a second round. I'd just like to interject that you've talked about the community of people in Nagaland. We have an excellent example of the Amur falcon now, how the community is helping the breeding of the falcon, and it's resting wintering in its incredible journey. So it's like a transit point. We'll come back to that with a little more example from your rhino poaching. Before I hand it over to the next speaker, we'll bring you back in the maybe a minute.
In the previous session, there is a reference of community conserved sacred groups. I think the most prominent are in Meghalaya. And in Janka, one dynamic DFO, Mrs. Heisakaru Lato, had initiated and succeeded in conserving 37 sacred groups by declaring them into community conserved areas.
Yes, the Mawslang range.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. If you are comfortable, you would like to speak from your seat, that's also fine. Otherwise, you could go to the podium. I will direct our attention now to another important facet of our panel's discussion of being rooted in culture. We are sorry to be missing Malmeet Lepcha, the Indigenous Tribal Association leader and the president of the Sikkim Lepcha Indigenous Tribal Association. But we come close to Sikkim and to Arunachal Pradesh, and its founder, executive director of the Wancho Literary Mission, Mr. Bhagwan Losu. Mr. Losu, could I ask you to have your little bit, and like to have a presentation? Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight, not in the details, what I found while studying my own communities. So I'm not going to read these texts because you can see here. So please take a look. So I will explain few which is related to conservation of the forests and ecology. So you can see a leaf tie up on the stem of a tree. So please take a back look over there in the slide. It's not coming well.
Who heads tribal identity, and that itself is quite in itself, sometimes a much debated term. For example, what is identity? What is tribal identity? We constantly, constitutionally also debate tribal identities with our different schedules and our different constitutional arrangements. But Mr. Topno, I'm sure would like to tell us how he brought in the preservation of tribal heritage through its music, its culture, its very robust indigenous cultures.
Good afternoon. I'm from Jharkhand, so I would wish you Johar, because that is the way we greet each other. And because I head the tribal identity team in Tata Steel Foundation, I must wish you with Johar. Now, culture and forest in indigenous communities, how are they related? Let me tell you that when we speak of forests, we often think that forest is filled with trees, wildlife, rivers, but that is not the word, or that is not the understanding of any indigenous community as far as the forest is concerned. Forest for any indigenous people is home. ये उसका घर है. It is their home. And the properties that we call today in terms of money, that is not the measurement of the richness that the indigenous communities talk about. It is how much of jungle they have in the surrounding, how many animals are there, what kind of birds are there, what kind of environment they are living in. All these things are the richness that they consider as more important than the bank balance. And actually the intrusion of money, that has spoiled the understanding of many of the people, and which is actually harming the culture and also the ethos of the tribal communities. And that is why now there is a confusion. Now there is a confusion that which way to take. Should I go for earning money or should I continue to live the way my ancestors have been living? And within this two ways of thinking and school of thoughts, they are lost. And that is why you said that you are working as head of tribal identity, and therefore the identity becomes very important. So, history has taught us that there is always a middle path, and Buddha has very well described about it. So, in Tata Steel Foundation, we are trying to pave that way so that we arrive at a middle path, that we also conserve the identity of the tribal communities, as well as we adopt only as much as it is needed of the modern ways of thinking. Now when you talk about tribal communities and the forest or the nature, any tribal community would say that we worship nature. The religion is based on nature. Now what is nature and who is their God? Now in most of the tribal communities in India, there are 705 scheduled tribes as per the schedule, but the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has listed something like 753 scheduled tribes today. All of their understanding of their religion, whatever they name that religion, understanding comes from these facts, that there is a creator. And because I come from a tribe called Munda, in our language we call that god as Singbonga. Singbonga, Singi means sun, Bonga is the spirit. Now, Singbonga does not mean sun god. It is God the creator. Rest of all the gods are the powers of nature. And they are named as Bongas. Bongas means spirit. So, the religion of the tribal communities believe in different kinds of spirits. The creator, the spirit, the Singbonga, created the world. He is there once a year. He is worshipped only once a year. But the powers of nature are worshipped on the basis of the seasons that we face. Now the hierarchy of the spirits is like this. There are big mountains. You have lightning, thundering. All these are also called spirits. And because they are super powerful, they can destroy the entire jungle with one swipe. And therefore, they are kept on the highest category. Just below them, you will find natural phenomena like a river, small mountains, hillocks, big trees, and those kind of things that will be considered in the second category. Below them will be the animals. Animals would be there, animals of different kind. Those who kill the other animals and human beings, those animals who eat or survive on grass, leaves, etc. Then there are insects. They will be just below that. And lastly, the spirit of human beings. Just above them will be the spirits of ancestors. So this is the hierarchy of the spirits of tribal religion. So nature is worshipped because they are making us survive. We are not making the nature survive. We will all die, nature will still survive. If a flood comes or an earthquake happens, the entire nation of India is wiped away, nature will thrive again, it will come back. Therefore, we worship the nature so that it protects us, and that is how the religion of the tribal communities come about. The culture of the tribal communities, therefore, derive a lot of these things from the nature itself. And therefore, Sir was talking about the village communities, the headmen. Most of the tribal communities have this traditional governance system. In Jharkhand, where I come from, Santals are there, Mundas are there, Hos are there. They have their own traditional governance system. Each of the villages will be having a headman, and it will be he will be helped by 5 other elders of the village. And if any decision for the village has to be taken, then this will be done with the help of every individual, because they will all be called to a place called Akhada, where the meeting happens. Their opinions will be collected, and finally the decision will be made by the chief of the village with the help of the 5 elders who would advise after taking the opinions of the others, and they will tell it to the villagers. If they give their consent, then that decision is final. That is how it is there. And therefore, in this way, even if the forest is to be cut, which part of the wood is to be brought for the house repair, where the field is to be developed for paddy cultivation or any other cultivation, that will be decided by the community together.
I'm just curious, you mentioned the Akhada, the traditional, the court or the council which takes decisions for your community and the village. Do women get included?
Yes, everybody.
Okay.
All the women are there. Women also will be there. Their opinions also would matter. Unfortunately, the headman will always be a male, and that is why now there is a, from the modern way of understanding gender issue coming in, it is always said that only male-dominated societies are there. But yeah, the opinions of the women are also taken. Most of the family matters is not decided by the man, it is decided by the woman.
So you have a distribution.
Yes, yeah.
This is quite similar, if I may interject, to a matrilineal society in the northeast, which is the Khasis, where they are led by women who inherit property, but the women don't lead the Darbar Shnong, which is the council that the Khasis sit in and take decisions about.
There is a difference, and that is why Khasis are called as the matrilineal society. With inheritance comes to the male members of the family. In other societies, there is one more matrilineal society in Kerala, but they are PVTGs. They are also unable to survive now. But most of the other tribal communities are patriarchal. They follow the patriarchy. So that is how it is, because the inheritance will come to the male members.
So I would like to ask you in the second round, as we conclude, about the current challenges to this old system of, patrilineal or patriarchal hierarchy, and village kind of governance or tribal governance, what are the challenges that you may be facing, and how does community clash with the new kinds of practices of digital life, etc.? We'll come to that in the second round. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we bring you on quickly? Mr. Losu.
So let us see the slide. Little bit I will try to tell about the pictures given here, but I cannot go through all the text, so please take a look. Here you see the leaf on the stem of a tree. This is a kind of respect shown by the people towards the tree. So this signifies the ownership also. So our people cannot take it, cut it illegally without permission. So this is given that I am the owner. So when I was a small child, I used to go with my father. They used to chant something before tying this leaf, saying that grow first, be taken care of from the harmful insects, from the deadly storm and the thunder, something like that, to the tree. I don't know, the tree listen us or not, but they used to speak with the tree. Could be, tree listen us, the forest listen us. We need some research on that. So I will be hurried. And this symbol is don't cut the tree. So it acts like a CCTV camera in modern days. So don't touch, don't cut without permission. This is the cross symbol if in front of any kind of property, the jungle, the trees, the bamboos, by our community. Please take a look at this text. So let us proceed ahead. So insect plays also the role, important role in our traditional culture. When this insect started singing at night, the people understand that now the time is coming. We can travel far in the jungle, stay in the jungle, and there will be no harm by insects on us, and there will be no harmful snake in the jungle. We are safe now, and we can go away from the home. These insects tell us in our traditional system. And others significant, the thing which we can also follow today is that this is a small creature, termite. Sometimes it flies in the sky, and people understand that termite flying in the sky signifies that fish are coming for laying eggs in the stream, small stream, saying that we can go for fishing. And after laying egg, the fish go back to the big river and they trap it. After laying egg, not before laying egg. So it doesn't disturb the populations of the fishes. So this kind of practices was there earlier. So we should also follow, because for survival we used to eat fish, but not harming their population and the next generation. And another thing is that we have, in small childhood time, we have been frightened, not only me, for all, that banyan tree is very important in our culture. And cutting the banyan tree is evil. If we cut the banyan, we will become abnormal. or there will be a back effect. So nobody should cut the banyan tree. This was the restrictions in the society. Because our people first understood that this banyan tree live for longer and they give us sufficient oxygen. So to harm such kind of tree is illegal and not good for ourselves. That's why they simply tell us and not to cut this tree by saying that you will become abnormal. That will be side effect on you. Otherwise, the people may take lightly and they may not be followed. That's why it becomes the practice in the culture. Another thing is that in the swimming place area or where there is water, we cannot go for pee, for toilet, speeding, anything. If we do this thing, the Satan, the evil spirit will come and punish us, and we will fall sick. There will be a bad effect on us. So simply, they wanted to tell us that don't make dirty, don't contaminate water, in simple way. But they are frightening us so that we strictly follow. This is the concept of our forefathers. In another point, people speak with the tree. This is actually the allergic tree. When we pass nearby this tree, we get allergic and itching. So unknowingly, if we pass through this tree, people used to say that I am your brothers and sisters. Do not harm me. Saying that, they pass away. These things indicate that they listen us. They understand our voice. And this is our Wancho calendar, especially from my village. So we have a lunar cycle. We use this timetable in the village level. When the fish laying egg, when we can take part, when people may die, when animals are roaming, which day. And from first day to the 31st, we have different name. Not like English calendar 1, 2, 3. We have the different name for particular day. So we understand this. And when this,
I think.
okay.
And we'll come back to last question to you. We have one more speaker.
Okay.
Right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't want to cut short what you want to say, so we'll come to the concluding comment. Thanks, sir. So Mr. Losu reminds us of the unknown modes of being in nature, as the English poet Wordsworth said almost 200 years ago, that there are spirits and that nature can be your teacher, that there are so many wisdoms that are to be borrowed and inherited from the world around us. We come to the last speaker on the panel to something that is a serious question of biodiversity, conservation, and since he is a conservation scientist himself, perhaps he can extol on ideas about climate change, about climate anxiety, and what it does to the ecology of communities and their livelihoods. So over to Rajkamal.
Yeah, thanks. Very delighted to be here. Kokolo, Shota Kokolo, Namaskar. My co-panelist, just for context, when Dr. Anaruddin Chaudhary was publishing those articles that Rakhi spoke so eloquently about in Sentinel, I was probably being conceived at that time. So I'm just sitting with people I have enormously learned from, got a lot of inspiration from. So just thank Balipara Foundation for giving me this platform and opportunity to speak a few words. Today is International Mountains Day, and since we are talking about rooted knowledge in indigenous system, let me start by acknowledging that our mountain system has been preserved, and we are talking about Eastern Himalayas, is largely because of the local communities that have maintained traditional livelihoods, that have used knowledge systems to manage and maintain these mountains well over time. And that's why people like us in the plains in Assam are able to reap a lot of benefits. We get water security, we get climate security, we get food security, and a whole lot of things. In the mountains is where most of our carbon stock lies today, most of our biodiversity lies today. So mountains are extremely important, and the threat to the mountains and the threat to the indigenous knowledge system has gone together almost. We are talking about climate change today. This is a huge word, but a lot of the problems that we see, which is created due to climate change, like landslides, like hazards due to extreme rainfall events. All these things, like if you see what happened in Sikkim, I mean, Malmit is not there. I'm so sad that she's not here today. But a lot of the things that she writes about, she speaks about in terms of preserving rivers in the Lapcha community. I mean, these disasters are man-made, to be honest, and these are created by people despite knowing the risk. So climate change is happening, but all the impacts, the negative impacts of climate change that we are seeing is deeply caused by our poor understanding and poor acknowledgement of the traditional knowledge that exists, and we haven't really been able to design our development initiatives in sync with what people have known for generations about how to keep the mountain system stable, and even some of the development that happened during the colonial times. I mean, there are two roads which leads to the mountains of Sikkim and Darjeeling. You take the old road, how many landslides do you hear in that road? Hardly any. But you take the new road which was built hardly in the last maybe 60-70 years, and that land is prone to landslide. Why is that? So these are some of the things that we have to think about when we talk about climate change, is how we can integrate knowledge, the rooted knowledge that we are talking about, into development, into design, into creating, or rather removing hierarchies that exist within knowledge. When we talk about tech, when we talk about development, when we talk about well-being, it's all driven by very technocratic ideas. Development is driven by mostly economic well-being, but there are far more nuanced understanding of development today, and that is what I think there's a huge need to rediscover what Losa was talking about. How we can bring it into the mainstream rather than writing books about them and few people read about it and do wow, so nice. How do we integrate it in the mainstream developmental paradigm is the main challenge today.
Thank you, Rajkamal, for that very crisp and succinct summing up of how biodiversity, ecological wilderness, challenges to our environment, and in the main, the transformed lives of the community are all enmeshed in this one long continuum that we have to try and unpack and understand, not, as he says, not just from textbooks, but from living wisdoms from the people, the cultures, the communities that we have spoken about. Mr. Losu has given us a wonderful vistas of how natural agency is part of our everyday life, and how tribes in his community actually understand and hear the signals, pick up the signals that nature actually offers to us. Something like this is available in a very rich way in the kind of new literatures that are now being written across the northeast of India, whether we are talking about Ohomia literature or Anuradha Sharma Pujari, Yat Ekon Oranno Asil. She speaks about once there was a forest, and so we're really understanding how forests are shrinking from these everyday stories. Likewise, we have Janice Pariat's Everything the Light Touches, where she goes back to that originary tree. the tree of life that tells us stories of how we descend, and she comes close to our 21st century discovery of the Meghalayan age, where we actually remember how ancient Meghalaya is and what the rich secrets of that land could be. So likewise, I think Mr. Topno has talked about the wisdoms that a tribal culture can offer, the kind of very neat social structures, ecological, social and intellectual cultures that are already inbuilt into tribal life and wisdom. That is another fascinating facet that we have also heard of. I'm particularly reminded of Arunachali writer Yeshe Dorje Thongches, whose very famous now prize award-winning book Bahfulor Kundha is also a deeply natural kind of wisdom that comes from the flowering of the bamboo trees. The scent of the bamboo trees of the bamboo flowers is how it is translated, and how it brings us impending knowledge of a bubonic plague, perhaps. So I think these wisdoms, sentient knowledge, resilience of the mountains and the forests, how forests think. I'm reminded of Eduardo Kohn, the Amazonian anthropologist and ethnologist, historian, who talks about forests thinking. How do forests think? And speaking trees, I think we have all talked about trees and creatures of the wild, multi-species, the falcon, the rhino of Dr. Anwaruddin Chaudhary, and back to Rajkamal Goswami, who deals with a much larger kind of bigger picture. So can I have 1 minute, just 1 minute, we are running really short of time, concluding thoughts, 1 minute and no more. I will be happy if it's less than 1 minute.
Yeah. So everybody are talking about the plantations and to protect the environment, but only few people are doing practically. But we have started plantation with collaboration with the Balipara Foundation. So this year we have planted near about 15,000 trees, and this is the initiative we will be continue. Thank you.
Fantastic. Mr. Topno.
Yes, I just wanted to add that there is a lot of rich wisdom in the tribal communities. The modern way of thinking also has discovered a lot of valuable things. Only thing that matters now is to bring a cohesion between the old ancient wisdom and the new way of scientific thinking, so that we arrive at something which is sustainable, lasting, and good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Chaudhary.
The examples I have given, right from Mulbaz to Konoma as well as Bukun, those should be replicated in other places also. An organization such as Balipara Foundation may take the lead in organizing trips from other areas, potential areas, to these successful sites.
Wonderful suggestion. And to Rajkamal.
So I'll just, all of my co-panelists have highlighted the challenges. I'll just leave the audience with few things to ponder and think about as we go for lunch. One is that we have to remember that conservation, like we scientists who create conservation knowledge, have been a beneficiary of traditional knowledge systems of local communities, wherever they may be. Around the world, the conservation science, biodiversity science, discovery of new species are built on the edifice of very rooted knowledge of local communities, but they are not really attributed and acknowledged in adequate terms. So that way, conservation science and conservation biology has been beneficiary of knowledge system. The ulta is true. The ulta thing is that science has not really benefited indigenous knowledge system, and that is something that we really need to think. There is a deep tension. So you might have seen Bangwang's slides. he spoke about insects, he spoke about trees, he spoke about the importance of clean rivers. What has scientific development and industrial development done for us? We have basically gone and dismantled those systems which existed. And the kind of species that science or the modern conservation system want to protect, tigers, large mammals, elephants, all of them have really big problems in the society in terms of causing problems in terms of agriculture and a lot of other issues, particularly people who live on the edge of natural ecosystems. So there is a slightly undercurrents of tension between the goals of modern conservation and what indigenous system wishes to protect environment. They see the system in its holistic way, not just focused on few charismatic species. This is what we have to challenge, and that is where I think once we start understanding these tensions, identifying these tensions, that is where we can think about how we can make not science just a beneficiary of the rooted knowledge, but how can rooted knowledge inform and help our life improve and particularly tackle very complex challenges like climate change.
That brings me to one kind of, final thought on a wonderful environmental feminist of our times, Karen Barad, who talks about meeting the universe halfway. So I think from all the impulses and the information that we have, the rich data and the knowledge and the stories that you brought from your respective regions and locations, actually tell us how we need to walk to the universe halfway, as in Karen Barad's famous statement, meeting the universe halfway, so as to enable us to understand what we have sought to, sweep under the carpet over what seems to be the threat of a bang of information and digital knowledge and, scientific, great aggressive scientific leadership that does not look back. So the need to look back, the need to walk halfway, which I think is being richly enabled and robustly being made possible by Balipara Foundation, under whose aegis we've had this exciting round of discussion today, and we are all deeply indebted to Balipara for showing us the way, for actually, walking those first steps and allowing people who have remained submerged, hidden, unspoken, and without a tongue, have made them, have animated the knowledge that they bring and have enriched the present way of life. Thank you very much. If we have any observation or question from the audience, one question, because we are really, really seriously out of time. I'm sorry if that was too aggressive. But I think everyone's hungry and waiting for lunch. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you very much to all the panelists for this lovely and wonderful round of conversation. Thank you.